Hi guys, welcome back to Glittery Crystals. This time around, I am very excited to show you our tumbler that we will be creating tonight. This is by far my top favorite one. I know I love my tumblers, and you already know that. But for real, this is my favorite tumbler in the world history. Talking about dramatic, bro. So this tumbler turned out beautiful. I'm not even gonna give you a preview. I know that you saw the thumbnail, but I'm not even gonna give you a preview of the whole cup because, girl, you gotta watch the whole video. All right, guys, let's start watching. So as you can see, we will be using fabric for this time around. I am measuring this fabric, and this fabric I've had in my drawer for about 2 years, and I had never used it. I bought so much fabric about 2 or 3 years ago when I wanted to be a bow artist. I wanted to create bows for my daughter and I wanted to sell them, but I never came around to making bows to sell. So I have all of this fabric that I bought, and one night I was working on my tumblers and I said, what's my next tumbler? What is it gonna be? How is it gonna look? I had no idea, and I just opened the drawer. I saw this piece of fabric and I'm like, bingo, this is it. So that's how I chose this beautiful fabric. And I know I am not explaining my steps, but you can see here. I used Tack It to glue my fabric on my tumbler. And make sure that you have your fabric in the right direction. You don't want to mess that part up. I basically cut it to fit my tumbler. I left a small amount of fabric, an extra piece of fabric, so I can cut that part off when I'm done gluing my fabric. So since this fabric has some white accents, it actually is gonna peek through the silver. It doesn't look so noticeable once you're done with it, but you can tell that I did not spray paint my tumbler. I really don't prep my tumblers anymore. I haven't prepped my tumblers for more than a year ago, and I have never had an issue with it. And this time it was not going to be different. I was not going to prep my tumbler, or in this case, I did not prep my tumbler, but I should have spray painted my cup. The main key when using fabric is adding several layers of glue to secure your fabric in place. You can use Mod Podge if you don't have Tack It. I have used Mod Podge before and it works fine. But in this case, I just went with the Tack It. They both work fine. There's nothing wrong with either one. We will be adding so many layers of Mod Podge after this, just to secure your fabric in place. So once we had glued our fabric to our tumbler, I am using some sharp scissors to cut the extra piece. And you can use an X-Acto knife, but in this case, I just wanted to use the scissors. That was better for me. It was what I had in hand nearby when I was doing this step. After you had cut your fabric, we will go back with our brush and we will apply more of that Tack It glue to secure the seam. We want to glue down the seam and make sure it's very well glued, because when we epoxy this fabric portion, we don't want any of that epoxy to go underneath the fabric and then lift it, and it's going to be a chaos. So once we have glued it, I will go back and I will actually trim. I will trim the bottom and the top part. The bottom part, whatever extra piece you have, we will let it be, but the top, the rim, we will cut that part off. So for both bottom and top, I am using more of the Tack It to glue the fabric to the tumbler. Make sure that you stretch the fabric just a tiny bit so you can have a good seal on the top and on the bottom. You don't want any of those, you don't want any of the fabric to crumble or to overlap. We want to avoid as much overlapping because the more thickness of fabric you have, the more coats of epoxy you will need to cover it. So as you can see, I'm stretching it with my finger and pressing it down firmly. So I am rubbing it, I am pressing on the tumbler, and this is how it looks. It looks beautiful. So I have let my tumbler dry for about an hour already. Now this time around I am using Mod Podge, and from now forward I will be using Mod Podge to layer my tumbler. Mod Podge dries clear, so it's perfect for this portion of the video. And add a generous amount, but an even coat. Make sure to have a very even coat. You don't want it very thin or very thick either, so just eyeball it. And I'm fanning out the Mod Podge. Don't forget the bottom part, and also don't forget the rim. And this is how it's looking. We will let it dry. I do let mine dry for at least an hour. I was doing these steps at night. I was working on my tumblers for so many hours, so I would do this step, let it sit there for an hour, and then continue with another cup. So once that hour at least has passed by, we will add a second coat of Mod Podge the same way. The entire tumbler, the bottom, and also the rim. Make sure that you are coating very well the rim because we will be cutting that section. And once you have Mod Podge, make sure that this time around it is very dry, a few hours at least. We are going to be cutting the edge, so you want your tumbler to be very dry. I did let mine sit overnight before I did this step. So as you can see, I am using this tool. I bought this one, I believe, at an Etsy shop a few years ago. I will try and find the link to this product. And I am pressing firmly. I am pressing my cup towards the blade firmly, and that way it can cut through the Mod Podge and through the fabric at one pass. So I am gently pulling away that excess part that we just cut. And once we get to the overlapping of the fabric, I am using an X-Acto knife to cut that part off. And right here, you are noticing that I am pulling that fabric. I am just making sure that there's no extra fabric strings attached that I need to cut, and the cup looks perfect. This is the part where I noticed that you can see where the stainless steel peeks through the fabric. But everything looks fine. We will continue with our design. Make sure you coat very well your rim. You do not want to miss this part. Make sure that the rim is well sealed with Mod Podge. It doesn't matter if you get Mod Podge underneath or in the inside of your tumbler. That's going to be fine. We can take care of that later on, and you will wash your cup, and that's going to be fine. But before we epoxy, we need to make sure that your cup is fully coated in Mod Podge. Coated. So this is the glitter that we will be using, Bejeweled. It's a beautiful blue holographic iridescent mix. I love it, and it gives so much sparkle to this tumbler. Both glitters are beautiful, a beautiful match with this tumbler. So I am actually using epoxy to seal or to glue my glitter. And I am so sorry that my hand is on the way. The angle is not perfect. So I am coating the bottom of my tumbler, and afterwards I am going to be sprinkling just the bottom part of my cup. In this part, I am tilting my cup at a 45-degree angle, the rim being the lowest part of the cup, and I am going slowly. I am using my glitter bottle and basically deciding how far up I want my glitter to go. I wanted this beautiful fabric pattern to show, so I didn't want that much of a glitter in my cup. And here I am dumping some of that glitter, making sure that the bottom is well coated, because remember, we did not spray paint the bottom, so you need a good coat of your glitter so none of that bottom fabric can show through. And this is how far I want my glitter to go. I still want more of that glitter because it's still so see-through. So I am actually tilting my cup at a 45-degree angle. This time around, the bottom part of the cup is the lowest part. So the glitter will not sprinkle further from where it's at. Now, using my fingers, I am adding more of that glitter, but I have a better control when I'm using my fingers instead of the bottle. And this is how beautiful the tumbler is looking. Add a layer of your epoxy or two as needed. And once the last layer of epoxy has cured, give it a sanding. Give it a good sand so your tumbler is very smooth. We need our tumbler to be as smooth as possible for this next step. Now I am using painter's tape to guide the V shape that I am going to create with the next glitter. I am actually repositioning the tape over and over again. We want to be 100% sure of the design, and right where the fabric overlapped, where we have that seam, that's where the second glitter is going to be placed. So you won't see this part, and this is going to be a cover-up for that section. I actually wasn't sure if I wanted a very spiky bottom V or if I wanted some gap in between, and I opted to have a gap. It was going to be different this time around. So I am covering the rest of the tumbler. So whatever area I don't want any spray paint, because we will be using spray paint to glue our next glitter, I am actually using this transfer paper or transfer tape that I did not like. It just doesn't work. It's not picking up any of my vinyl. I just had it lingering around, so I'm actually using that transfer tape to protect my tumbler. I'm protecting the bottom and I am protecting the rest of the tumbler. After you have completed the section, we will go back with painter's tape and make sure that the edge of that transfer tape, we will make sure that that edge from the transfer tape is well sealed. You do not want any of your spray paint to get underneath the tape and over the rest of your tumbler, because it's going to be a mess. So make sure that everything is well protected. And I would much rather, oh wow, I would much rather use extra than not enough. Right after you have spray painted your tumbler, in this case, light blue was the only spray paint that matched my glitter. So right after you have spray painted your cup, you will go back and you will glitter your tumbler. So the spray paint is going to be used as the adhesive to glue your tumbler. Look at this beautiful mint green glitter. I am obsessed. And when I say I'm obsessed, I am obsessed with this glitter. It is such a beautiful mint green. It sparkles beautifully under epoxy. You need this glitter. And I'm not saying it just because I sell it, but this shade of green is beautiful. It's to die for. Now let's go back right after we have glittered. Shake off the excess from the glitter and go back and remove your tape. Everything that you placed on your tumbler, remove it. Just be careful that you don't scratch that glitter. And if you do, there's always a way to solve it. But make sure that you carefully remove the transfer tape and the rest of the painter's tape from the tumbler. You don't want it to sit around and adhere to the spray paint, and then the spray paint will lift once you remove the tape. So you want to do it once you have glittered and the spray paint is kind of wet to this point still. Now let's let our spray paint dry for about 25 minutes, and then we will seal it and let it dry for another 30 minutes. So as you can see here, I have already sealed my glitter. It will not move its place. I have not epoxied. It's only been sealed from the glitter step. Now I will be using these two types of vinyl. This one is a masking tape, or no, it's not a masking tape. It's a washi tape. So I bought this washi tape in a pile of tapes that I purchased from Amazon. I will try and link these products because I purchased these tapes a long time ago, and I will try and find the link to it. So I am adding this one. This adhesive from this washi tape is not so strong, so I am making sure that I'm pressing firmly so it stays in its place. And right after, I am cutting the edges and I am placing the second strip of vinyl. And this black vinyl, it's actually left over from my Sally's tumbler that I created. You can watch that video and see the measurements because I just can't remember the measurements of this thin vinyl that I cut. So when I have mentioned this trick before, or tip, I should say, whenever I'm using vinyl, instead of cutting just a piece that I will be using for that tumbler, I actually cut a 12 by 12 and I just save it. So whenever I'm using vinyl, I already have pieces cut for me. So in this case, I wasn't sure if I was gonna add a second piece of vinyl or not. I decided to go for it and add it to my cup. So right after that, we will seal our vinyl and we will epoxy 30 minutes after we have sealed our cup. And you can see here that my cup was moving its place. I was still waiting for my attachments for my tumblers. So this one was not the right fit for my cup. That's why it was falling off the turner, but I made it work. I caught it on time and I just put it back, added a little bit more of epoxy and let it cure. So at this point, my cup has been sitting for at least a month. Yes, for a month. I was not fully satisfied with my tumbler. I loved it, but I knew something was missing and I wasn't sure what. So I let my cup at least a month, if not more, sit on my desk until bling bling, I had an idea. And this is what put everything together. This is what made my tumbler be beyond beautiful. And I'm not saying it's not already, but I knew this was missing. I decided to use some of my temporary tattoos that I had on my door, and this is what gave it that hint, that extra accent to my tumbler. So as you can see here, I am using strips of tattoo, and since the line is not as straight, I am only applying water to half of that tattoo. Then once that half has been wet enough, I am doing the rest of the strip. And I will continue to do this until all of these strips have been applied. So this kit that I used had silver and gold, but it did not have the same strips with the same color. So I used silver and I used gold, but I think that it's beautiful. It's different, but both of them go so well with the topic or the theme of this tumbler. I, as you can see, added the thickest strip on the edge. Then I added a smaller accent and then the middle section. And I will be doing and repeating the same step. I'm using my napkin with water to wet the area instead of using a sponge. So I'm just using a napkin, a wet napkin, to get the paper wet, and within a few seconds, it's ready to peel. Let this part fully dry for at least 2-3 hours before you continue with the next step. And look at this. I can't stop looking at it. I'm in love with this cup. It looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. So the last step is for us to epoxy our tumbler. It's up to you. If you want to do a full thick coat of epoxy, which is what I did, or if you want to do 2 coats, but a good thick coat will be just fine. And look at this tumbler. I just see it. I'm mesmerized by the glitters. All of these glitters just stand out so beautifully. They match perfectly with this fabric. Aquamarine, which is this mint blue, matches with the accents, and Bejeweled matches with the bird. Like it was meant to be. I love the way that they all came together. It's beautiful, and by far it's my #1 tumbler. I love it. I will be using so much. I am going to be taking care of it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you love this design as much as I did. It took me a couple of months to finish, but I am very satisfied. And that's a tip for you. If you are not 100% satisfied with the cup, just let it sit on your desktop or on your table until you get the inspiration again. Well, guys, this is the final result. I hope you enjoyed spending this time with me. Please follow me, subscribe to my channel, comment below. Thank you all so much for wishing me a happy birthday. Thank you so much. And happy birthday to all of you that commented that either had the same birthday a day before, a day after, a few days before. For your kids that had birthdays near my birthday, happy birthday to all of you. Thank you so much for being part of my world, and I will see you on our next video. Bye, guys.